the girl called a burden, met a cold genius. Their dungeon journey surprisingly makes one's blood boil. After the spar, it was time for lunch. Both Lyrica and Shiro went together as Shiro bought some sandwiches once again. Do you want to go dungeon exploring later? We'll try to get some money so we can make you that new weapon, Shiro wrote down whilst eating a monostone-filled sandwich. Ah, what do you mean? Lyrica asked. Don't you need the dual-ended sword? We'll save up some money so we can go get one made for you. Then you'll be able to do dungeons much easier. Well, a higher level dungeon needs at least 5 people. I've always been on my own, so I don't really enter dungeons most of the time. When I do, the loot goes to the other people, since they have more contribution than me, Lyrica admitted with slight shame. Shiro frowned hearing about this. It's fine. I had my class up, so I should be a D rank adventurer. Right now I'm a E+ because I didn't class up last time, Shiro explained, showing Lyrica her gilded. Even then, we need 2 D ranks to enter the level 10 plus dungeon, Lyrica said as Shiro frowned. Troublesome, she thought. Is there a way to get a permit to enter the dungeon with just us two? Shiro asked, but Lyrica shook her head. Shiro tried to think of solutions but couldn't come up with one. To level Lyrica up, the best way was for them to enter a dungeon higher level than 10. She was able to enter alone into the public dungeon last time, was due to the monsters being level 5 or below. That, and also she was a E+ rank adventurer. A woman walked past as she paused, seeing what Shiro had just wrote down. You want to enter a dungeon with just the 2 of you? She said as Shiro turned to her. Madison LVL 14. Swordswoman. She had brown hair tied in a ponytail, black eyes, and an average face that had its own sense of beauty. Yes, is there anything wrong? Shiro wrote. Maybe not for you, but this loser would drag you down, Madison said, pointing her finger at Lyrica. Lyrica shrunk back, not daring to meet her eyes. Shiro frowned, seeing her confidence shrinking once more. I'm a level 21 ice mage. I can make up for what she lacks, Shiro wrote down as her surroundings started to drop in temperature. Even as a level 21 ice mage, you'll run out of MP eventually. The loser here will just draw in more enemies and cause you to suffer losses, Madison said, not relenting. And how would you know that? I know because she was in my party once, Madison said as she glared at Lyrica, causing her to shrink back further. Shiro paused as she realized that this was a prime opportunity. In one dungeon run, I can guarantee that she levels up to 12 at least. That should prove her worth, Shiro wrote down as Madison laughed. Level 12 EXP is calculated in terms of contribution in the party. With a hindrance like her, it would take forever to level her up once, Madison said. I can guarantee her a high contribution percentage easily. Shiro smiled. Big words for a little girl, Madison said, seeing what Shiro wrote. How about this then? I want you and 2 of your friends to fill in the gap in our team. Me and Lyrica will proceed with the dungeon. We'll have a single day inside the dungeon or in our outside. If I don't get her level to at least level 12, I'll serve under you and help you level up to 20 instead, Shiro wrote down as both Lyrica and Madison felt their jaws drop. SS Shiro, Lyrica said, shocked at what Shiro was wagering. Having a level 21 assist me will make me level up much faster, Madison thought. What do I have to do if I lose the bet? She asked. Shiro smiled as she knew she had Madison hooked. 4 or 5 days in a week. You'll help me and Lyrica fill the numbers needed to enter a dungeon. 5 days, 3 at most, Madison said as Shiro nodded. Being able to enter the dungeon 3 days in a week was worth it. Even if I lose, 3 days isn't too bad, Madison thought. We'll sign an agreement later so neither of us can go back on our words, Shiro wrote down as she remembered the school allowing bets, but they must be under a contract. All right, I just hope you don't back out, Madison replied. Don't worry, I won't. We'll do the bet today since the dungeon exploration class will start soon. Shiro gestured for Lyrica to follow. Just a kid in the end. I'm an ice system focused mage. My magic can help lock down monsters, making it easier for my teammates to kill them. This is basically a one-sided bet, Shiro thought with a grin. That, and also the fact that there was a slight loophole in the agreement. She never stated how many times they'll be running the dungeon in a day. A day is 24 hours. She can spend 24 days in the dungeon if she wanted. As they left the food court, Lyrica couldn't help but be anxious. Shiro, you shouldn't have done that. EXP is calculated in contributions. I doubt I'll be able to get enough contributions to level up twice. Not to mention, you'll basically become her servant, Lyrica said, sounding anxious. Don't worry about it. It's only till level 20. Shiro grinned. How can I not worry? The average for level 20 is 16 to 18 years old. You'll have to help her for at least 2 years or more. I'll be making the dual-ended sword for you using my ice. My INT is pretty high, so it should help you in terms of contribution. You'll be killing the monsters while I'll be restraining them. This way, you should be able to get enough contribution. Shiro wrote down. But your freedom is at stake. Oh please, if I can level up to 21, even though I'm 13 years old, I'm bound to have a few tricks up my sleeve, Shiro said, shrugging her shoulders. Well, the truth is that I reached level 21 in just a few days. Shiro thought. Even so, that's your freedom at stake for 3 fill-ins. Lyrica frowned. It's just till level 20. If anything, I'm counting on you. Shiro grinned. Huh, you make reaching level 20 quickly sound so easy. Lyrica sighed. Don't worry about it too much. Just focus on increasing contributions later, when we do the dungeon. Pound, pound, pound. You didn't cower out, Madison said as she had her arms crossed. Neither did you, Shiro wrote down as she walked towards her. Lyrica walked behind Shiro as she tried to muster up the courage to face everyone with her head held high. However, her nerves got the better of her as she started to shrink herself a little again. This girl has a long way to go, Shiro thought with a weary smile. So I'm the observer for this bet. Madison Wilcroft and her 2 friends will agree to fill up Shiro and Lyrica Wallenstein's party for 3 days every week. In return, should Shiro and Lyrica Wallenstein fail their side of the bet, Shiro will help Madison Wilcroft until she's reached level 20. Is that correct? The teacher said as Shiro nodded. Since I have received the confirmation, please sign the contract, as you won't be able to go back onto your word until both parties have agreed. The teacher said as both Shiro and Madison signed the contract. The bet shall start the moment you enter the dungeon, the teacher called out after authenticating the contract. Shiro added the 3 people in front of her to the party. Shiro LVL 21, Ice Mage, Party Leader. Lyrica LVL 10, Elven Swordswoman. Madison LVL 14, Swordswoman. July LVL 13, Mage. Carol LVL 13, Swordswoman. Seeing that everyone is in a party, Shiro nodded and entered the dungeon. Serpent's Cavern 1F. Serpent's Cavern is a level 12 dungeon, meaning the boss should be around level 15, give or take, Shiro thought as she pulled out the sword handle the teacher gave her before. Asterisk cries froze over both ends of the handle as Shiro threw the sword over to Lyrica. We'll stay here and wait. Hopefully, you don't waste too much of our time and come back, Madison sneered as Shiro only shrugged. Come on, Lyrica, Shiro wrote as Lyrica nodded. Leaving Madison, July and Carol behind, Shiro and Lyrica dashed into the caverns. The caverns were oddly lit up yet still dark as they couldn't see too far ahead of them. Shiro and Lyrica dashed through the caverns without stopping as per agreed on. Shiro's speed was much higher than Lyrica's, so she slowed down just to make sure they were together. As we agreed before, I'll lock down the serpents and you decapitate them, okay? Quick and simple. Shiro showed Lyrica the note as she nodded. Shiro turned her focus in front of her as 2 serpents were being picked up on the minimap. Shiro quickly made 2 ice spears as she threw them towards the serpents. Missing the serpents' bodies, the spears created an arc that locked them in place. Cave Serpent LVL 10, Cave Serpent LVL 8. Without needing to be reminded, Lyrica already know what to do. She slid on the ground slightly as she twirled the blade in a spinning motion. Jumping up, she did a flip whilst the blade itself decapitated the 2 serpents. Contribution: Lyrica 65%, Shiro 35%, Madison 0%, July 0%, Carol 0%. Collect, Shiro said. However, to Lyrica, Shiro just opened her mouth and said nothing. The serpents' bodies faded as Shiro quickly brought out her notepad. Next, Lyrica nodded as they charged towards the next lot of serpents, Pound pound pound. Wah, they've already killed some monsters. And that loser got 65% contribution as well. July called out as Madison turned her attention towards her friend. Madison, if they actually do this, I hope you remember what you promised us. Carol said as Madison nodded. I know. I'll pay you guys for every hour we have to fill for their team. No biggie, Madison said, but her heart was pounding due to nervousness. How is she getting so much contribution? Madison thought with a frown. It took a while, but Lyrica leveled up to LVL 11. SS Shiro, I leveled up. Lyrica cried out in happiness and hugged Shiro whilst ignoring the cold. Shiro smiled warily seeing Lyrica's enthusiasm. I know. Come on, let's get as many levels as we can for you. My MP can still hold up for a while. Shiro replied, holding up the notepad. All right, Lyrica replied as Shiro refroze the sword to make sure it kept its sharpness. After clearing out a majority of the beasts that were in front of them, Lyrica didn't manage to level up again. Most of the mobs were below LVL 10, making the XP gain lower. We'll just kill the obelisk guardian then. That should level you up to 12. Shiro wrote down as Lyrica was panting heavily due to how much she had been moving. Can we handle it? She said, taking a short break. We should be able to, though I'll have to let my MP regenerate to full. You should take this chance to recover some of your stamina as well. Hey Shiro, isn't this bad for me? Like, I'm leveling up quickly, but my experience would be limited, Lyrica said after a while. It's good that you know. However, this is just to get your level up to par with everyone else so they don't look down on you. Afterwards, we'll be able to challenge dungeons 3 days a week with the trio filling up the missing spots. Shiro replied, but 3 runs per week is still a little short. I wish I can get more experience. Lyrica replied with a sigh. When did I ever say we're going to do a single run a day? I said 3 days a week and never specified how many times they had to accompany us. For all we know, they could accompany us for 24 days inside the dungeon, or 24 hours outside. A single day. Shiro showed Lyrica her note with a grin. Ha ha ha. Shiro, that's mean. Lyrica chuckled seeing the trap Shiro laid out for the trio. But wouldn't they retaliate? Lyrica asked. No, it's part of the contract after all. They can only blame themselves for not reading carefully. Not to mention, this Missy here is a level 21 while they haven't even classed up yet. Sometimes I wonder if you're really a 13-year-old Shiro. You seem so much more mature than I am, Lyrica said as Shiro shrugged. The physical body doesn't represent the mentality. One can be old yet have the heart of a child, or be young and have the mindset of an adult. Shiro wrote down as Lyrica nodded in agreement. Shiro is a smart, scheming, and is a powerful person. In a good way, of course. Lyrica grinned. And you are a hopeless person who needs guidance, Shiro thought with a smile but didn't say out loud. She had a feeling that Lyrica will become someone great as long as she got the help she needed. This whim of hers may prove to be more beneficial than she had expected.